Holy slap a monkey. Those things hurt. Paralyzed or not. Good crap. Alright guys, so I'm going to do this and over the course of a few days, explaining what Cauda Equina Syndrome is, my story with Cauda Equina, and kind of how I've got to where I am today. Cauda Equina is a condition where the lower portion of your spinal cord is compressed and or damaged. So if you're not very familiar with anatomy, your spinal cord starts at the base of your brain, runs through the cervical vertebrae in your neck, then through the thoracic vertebrae through your chest, and then you have 12 thoracic vertebrae. At the end of at T12 basically, you have what they call the conus medullaris, where your spinal cord comes to basically a point, and then from that point on is a bundle of nerves. So through your lumbar spine and through your sacrum, your tailbone, and all the way down to your legs. So if you have a low back injury, whether that's from a car accident or weightlifting, herniated disc, you know, something has to happen to compress those nerves. Some people, they have what's called spinal stenosis. The opening in your vertebrae is smaller than normal. And as you grow, become an adult, those nerves get pinched inside that narrow opening. And that's what causes you to start having symptoms. A lot of people you talk to with low back pain have some of the symptoms. But if you think of the acronym SPINE, S-P-I-N-E, but if you have radiating pain that's going down your legs, some doctors will go, oh, it's fine, you know, you've just got sciatica. But if you're having leg numbness and or weakness associated with that, they need to be paying attention to it. If you ever have any instances where your legs fall asleep or they just give out, you need to talk to your doctor about it and make sure that they're treating it accordingly, because sciatica doesn't do that. A pinched nerve does that. If you pinch a nerve long enough, you get permanent nerve damage. If you get enough permanent nerve damage, you become paralyzed. So my story, in 2016, I started having some moderate low back pain, you know, just sitting down a lot or, you know, really bumpy car ride, something like that. My back would hurt. And, you know, I'd stretch, I'd put an ice pack or heat pack or take a hot shower or stretch, you know, lay on the floor, put my feet up, you know, whatever I could do to try and just relieve the tension. And it just kept getting worse. And so I went to my doctor, who sent me to a sports medicine doctor, who sent me to physical therapy. Physical therapy made it worse. And I finally convinced the doctor that, you know, I'm having these shooting pains down my leg. I get up and start walking and my legs give out and, you know, all this kind of stuff. Finally convinced him to send me for an MRI. The MRI showed I had a massive herniation at L3-4, and a week later I couldn't get up off the floor. Went to the ER. They went, oh, well, you were supposed to get a steroid injection, and we talked to another spine specialist. They'll give you one today. Went to that spine specialist. They didn't even look at me. They just go, okay, well, we can't touch you until we establish you as a patient, so here's some drugs to get you through the weekend. We'll see you on Tuesday, because Monday was a holiday. Trying to leave that doctor's office, I felt like I had to go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom, but I couldn't get anything to come out. I was barely able to get myself dressed again and walk out of the bathroom before I hit the floor and couldn't get back up. The doctor's office loaded me into a wheelchair and rolled me out to the car and said, "Call us if anything changes." When we got home, my legs were completely rubber. I had no use or feeling control of them at all. So we had to have two friends come drag me into the house, lay me on the floor. At that point, my wife left to go fill the prescriptions for the weekend because that's what we were told to do. While she was gone, I would try and, put my hands on my hips and stretch my back to try and, ease some of the tension in my back. And when I started doing that, I noticed that it was changing the sensation in my legs. And that's when it clicked for me that this is a spinal injury. This is serious. So my wife got home, I explained it to her. We called an ambulance. They took me back to the ER, and the ER panicked because I was back for the second time in one day, and now I couldn't feel or move my legs. They called up the on-call neurosurgeon who looked at the MRI and said, "Holy crap, sedate him and get him here now for surgery." So they loaded me back into an ambulance and drove me another 40 minutes away to a hospital and got me into the room. And I had been given a lot of pain meds by that point. And the neurosurgeon comes in and he goes, "When they did your MRI this morning, why didn't they take you in for surgery right away?" And I was like, "I didn't have an MRI this morning." "Yes, you did. I looked at the images. Why didn't they take you in for surgery right away?" "Doc, I didn't have an MRI this morning. I had an MRI last week." Dude was breathing fire. He was mad. Anyway, he had me set up for surgery 6 a.m. the next morning unless things got worse during the night. The nurse that was supposed to be checking on me like every hour, she was there like every 15 minutes. And I could tell in her eyes that she was gravely concerned. At this point, it still didn't quite click to me that paralysis can be permanent. It's probably because of the drugs, I don't know. She came in, it was around 1 a.m. and I'd only been there since like 10:30 maybe that night. She'd come touch my toes, and, "Can you wiggle your feet? Can you feel this? Can you feel that?" And I couldn't really feel anything. I couldn't move anything. And she goes, "I think you're getting worse. I'm calling the surgeon." So 1:30 in the morning, they took me down and prepped me for surgery. I don't remember a whole lot of coming out of surgery. I remember the next morning, the CNA or whoever she was, coming in to take out the Foley catheter. Holy slap a monkey. Those things hurt. Paralyzed or not. Good crap. And then I spent a week in that hospital waiting for a bed to open up at an inpatient rehab hospital. And finally made it there and was doing physical therapy and occupational therapy. I convinced him to let me do some rec therapy, air hockey and bocce ball and things you can do sitting down in a wheelchair. And I was there for several weeks before insurance said, "You can't walk, but you're good enough to go home because we're not paying for it anymore," which is super nice of them. And from there, I started outpatient therapy, physical therapy, with it was a neurology group. They specialized in neuro problems, stroke patients, that kind of thing, which was the weird thing for me being in inpatient rehab is like I was the youngest patient in the whole building. Everyone else that was there was like 70 plus and had had a stroke. And I mean, some of those people were in really bad shape. And then there's me, a 20-something, with, you know, a little 2.5-year-old girl that, you know, comes screeching down the hallway, "Daddy!" and wanted to push me around in the wheelchair and that kind of stuff. And I don't know if we bothered any of them, but, you know, I kind of felt bad for everybody else whenever she came to visit me. I shouldn't, though. She didn't like that I had to live at the doctor's, and I didn't like that I had to be there either, but anyway. Then I was doing physical therapy for about a year, and the one doctor that I was seeing was like, "Yeah, your status, your what do they call them? Your numbers haven't changed in physical therapy from the last time, so you're not getting any more benefit out of it, so you're not going to go. I'm not going to renew it." Which, okay, gee, thanks. You know, like, everybody hits a plateau, and I can only go as fast as my nerves can regenerate, which some nerves can. Spinal cord does not, but the Cauda equina, those nerves do regenerate. It's like 0.2 millimeters a day or something like that. So, you know, he measured from the incision in my low back down my leg into my toes and did some little calculation, and goes, "Yeah, it should take about 4.5 years for those nerves to totally regenerate," which, nope, I'm calling BS on that. So that, I mean, so all things considered, you know, I made it from a wheelchair to a 2-wheel walker to a 4-wheel walker to using 2 canes to using 1 cane. And I was just at that, going to, well, when I finished physical therapy, I was at that transition of 2 canes to 1 cane. Well, not when I finished physical therapy, when they kicked me out. And I was doing pretty well on my own. You know, I was still exercising at home and all that kind of stuff. And then I had a freak mishap, and that was enough to kind of spaz everything out. I ended up back in the hospital, and I was on the border of going back to inpatient rehab or being sent home for outpatient therapy. And apparently insurance said, "No, we're not doing inpatient therapy," and kicked me out, and all of the hospital staff was really mad. I'm not sure if that's because they were hoping to bank on my insurance, but whatever. So I ended up back in physical therapy. You know, I showed up using a walker, and, you know, they had to put me in a big harness to suspend me on a treadmill to try and get my legs to walk. And I made it from there to where I think the therapist was I don't know. I think they just kind of get to a point where they're like, "Okay, you've recovered, but you've plateaued, and so I'm going to shove you off a cliff," type of thing. So she had this weird contraption that was like a poster board on like backpack straps, but it went out in front of you so you can't see your feet. And she'd take me outside and make me walk around in the grass where it's all uneven and stuff. And she's like, "Okay, now do it without your cane." And, you know, I'd kind of stumble around, and I didn't fall, but anyways. That's my story, I guess, in a nutshell. There's a whole lot more to it, but I won't bore you with all those details. So if you've got low back pain, and you have any of those other symptoms, radiating pain, tingling, numbness, loss of bowel or bladder control, anything like that, grab your doctor by the collar and get in their face to get an MRI to make sure that whatever's going on isn't going to paralyze you. Because, yeah, sure, the parking perks might be nice on busy days at whatever store you go to, but the hell you go through to get there is not worth it. Yeah. The kind of crap people put you through is ridiculous. I mean, I could go on and on about all the terrible encounters I had with people in stores, because here I'm a young 20-something, nothing obviously wrong with me, you know, not missing any limbs, but I'm in a scooter at the store because I can't walk 100 feet. And I'm just trying to be a member of my household, contributing to the workload of being able to grocery shop. But people don't see that. They just see a young 20-something in a scooter because he's too lazy. And they make comments about it. They make snide remarks. And I don't know how I didn't stab anybody. I mean, it's pretty obvious when I have a folded up walker sticking up in front of me out of the basket that, yeah, maybe dude can't walk that well. Or, I mean, I can't even tell you how many times we went to the store and, you know, for whatever reason, the walker wouldn't fit in the scooter basket. And so my wife would fold it up and put it in the shopping cart. And then you go to check out, and almost every stinking time, the cashier comes around with her little scan gun trying to find the barcode on my walker. Like, seriously, lady, we came in with that? Like, look at it. It's scuffed up. It's got dings all over it. You wouldn't be selling something like that here. Anyway. Maybe I'll do some more another night. 3